Got it.
Listen, we have a war. We do not have time for all these signals. This is not ping pong. This is about human lives. We ask once again, solve it faster. Do not shift the responsibility. Send us planes.
Ukraine's president tearing into the West, saying his country needs more help. Solve it fast. Meanwhile, the Biden administration claiming a breakdown in communication is the reason for them blocking Poland from sending those fighter jets to Ukraine. Vice President Kamala Harris in Poland today was asked about the embarrassing incident overall with the planes.
What kind of alternative plans does the United States have to get materials to help Ukraine defend itself, especially now that you have declined Poland's offer on jets?
The issue facing the Ukrainian people and our allies in the eastern flank is something that occupies one of our highest priorities. It is a dynamic situation and requires us to be nimble and to be swift.
What dressing do we put on that word salad? The Wall Street Journal editorial board out with NATO's Polish MiG-29 fiasco. Quote, the White House divides the alliance and signals weakness by refusing to let Warsaw send fighter jets to Ukraine. And Senator Lindsey Graham tweeted that he's dumbfounded. The Biden administration apparently supported Poland, a NATO member, transferring the jets, but all of a sudden, it is untenable when America is involved in the transfer. Senator John Kennedy, Republican from Louisiana, top-line thoughts from you, your reaction to the back and forth over what truly, truly would help Zelensky in Ukraine.
Well, Harris, as human beings, we all have gifts and gaps. I think it's obvious to most clear-eyed and fair-minded people that one of President Biden's gaps is that he is not a wartime consigliere. He's leading from behind. One would hope at a time like this that Vice President Harris could help fill that gap, but her performance, in my judgment, has been more akin to Fredo's. We certainly can't look to the UN for leadership. The UN is impotent. I would like to see the Senate play a bigger role. I'm not suggesting that all 100 senators jump in the middle of this. I would suggest two from each side. I'm thinking Senator Risch, Senator Rubio, Senator Menendez, Senator Warner could advise the president and the vice president if they would accept his help. I mean, I'll say it again, the president is just not a wartime consigliere. There are two immediate problems. Number one, the Ukrainian people and President Zelensky are fighting well above their weight, but they need planes. They need planes. They need planes. He made that very clear to us on the telephone Saturday. He's not asking for American planes or pilots or troops. He's asking for European planes. Some European countries will provide the planes, but the Biden administration can't make up its mind. Once again, it continues to lead from behind. Give the man his planes. Number two, we're in an economic war with Biden. We can't win this with this economic war with Biden. I'm sorry, with Putin. Maybe with President Biden too, and I'll explain that comment in a second. We can't win this economic war with Putin without cutting off his cash flow. We can't cut off his cash flow without stopping buying his oil and gas. America can do that. Europe can't because they've gotten themselves dependent on Russian oil and gas. We can fill the deficit left in Europe if it stops buying Putin's product by producing our own oil and gas. There's just one problem. The wokers refuse to let us do it, and if you turn them upside down and shook them...
I have to step in, and please forgive me. You know I'll bring you back as soon as we can, but we have a Senate hearing going on right now, and they are talking about exactly what you're talking about. Let's watch. The National Intelligence may not want the public to hear it. But I'm glad we got to hear some of that, because that was some truth-telling right there. And Senator Cotton was really going after it. What is the difference, he said, between giving them weapons that can shoot stuff down and giving them the planes that they're asking for? What an incredible moment. And when she came back with a challenging place to manage right now, who talks like that? Just say it what it is. The president doesn't know what to do, and he appears to be afraid of Putin. Let's go back to John Kennedy, senator from Louisiana, and get his take on this quickly. And then I want to move to the person they sent to solve this, Kamala Harris. Senator Kennedy, your initial reaction to what we just saw inside that Senate hearing?
Well, I think Senator Cotton asked some very probing and good questions. Let me say it again. I think it's obvious that President Biden is not a wartime consigliere. President Zelensky has asked for our help. He's not asking for our planes or our pilots or our troops. He's asking us to give the okay to European countries that will supply the planes. And the president can't seem, this is the most charitable interpretation, he can't seem to make up his mind. And the vice president has not helped. I don't even understand what her statement means.
Let's give people a little taste of the vice president. A cringy moment, another one, when asked about the Ukrainian refugee crisis. Just watch this.
Is the United States willing to make a specific allocation for Ukrainian refugees? And for President Duda, I wanted to know if you think, and if you asked the United States to specifically accept more refugees.
Okay. A friend in need is a friend indeed.
Did you see him put his hand out? Like, stop. Seriously. Senator.
Well, I don't speak stupid. I'm not calling the vice president stupid. I'm saying what she said from Poland is stupid. And I don't think anybody understands it. I'm not sure she understands it. There's just not a lot she can add here. I just think the Senate and some of the House leadership, perhaps, we're going to have to get involved here. I don't know whether it means passing some bills. I think if we introduced a bill today to give President Zelensky the planes, I think it would pass. I think most Republicans would support it. I think many Democrats would support it. I don't know if Speaker Pelosi would bring it up. But that's what we're down to. The Biden administration, whether it's our energy policy or helping President Zelensky, seems unable to make a decision. I mean, our energy policy is being dictated by the wokers, who refuse to accept an all-of-the-above energy policy. They'll only accept wind, solar, and pixie dust. And we're going to lose the economic war with Putin if we continue down that road.
Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana in focus today. Thank you. Thanks for sticking around for the breaking news, of course. Always.